Welcome back to Eagle Eye's SGA election show. Today I'm here with JD Jones, your outgoing SGA president. We're going to talk a little bit about what this last year has looked like for you, some of the things that you've accomplished, things like that. First off, I kind of wanted to talk about what your role looked like. I think a lot of people know who the SGA president is, but not necessarily what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So a little bit about yourself, what your roles look like this last year.
That's really good. I got that question last night at dinner, and so it's always fun to explain. I like to tell people that my role is two-part. You have the SGA president that is a president of an organization that you see with a lot of our SAOs and leading meetings, leading an exec team, establishing a culture, that type of thing. But then on the other side, you have a student body president side, which is all the administrative tasks, all the administrative committees. This year we're doing a strategic plan, so there's a lot of meetings that go along with that. Working alongside the board of trustees. We have our last board meeting tomorrow. That's what really takes up a lot of your time, and that's where you really get to expend a lot of your energy, is forming those relationships, achieving your goals. You're speaking on behalf of the student body. And then outside of that, the only other thing that I really like to think of is your speaking engagements. So anytime somebody wants a student to speak on behalf of either what they feel or just an invitation on behalf of the student body to an event or something like that is kind of what I would encapsulate my year as.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So in your platform last year, you kind of talked about how you wanted to your biggest thing was that you wanted to make a difference on campus and make a difference for students. I'm just curious how you feel like you've done that this year.
That's a really good question. So a cool thing that I think that sets Auburn SGA apart from other SGAs is you come in with a platform, and then you come together with an exec team who also all have platforms, whether they interviewed or whether they ran. And so they all come together, and we spent 3 or 4 hours in multiple meetings trying to figure out what our goals were going to be for the year. And you realize that those goals really make a large impact. But what we've continued to preach this year is it's the personal relationships that really make the big impact. So we were able to do some really cool stuff that I left in my farewell letter, we got a mental health tab on Canvas, and we've worked towards standardization in Canvas in general. There's going to be a Central Auburn app for students, a Central Auburn map for students. It's interactive, it welcomes new people in. There's going to be an All-Be figure that comes up in February. I guess we're in February now, but some Plainsman Park improvements, different things that have been really cool. But I think the biggest thing that you think about when you think about a difference is what impact have I been able to have, has our exec team been able to have on people's lives? And what will they remember Auburn SGA to be? And so I really hope that it's only fostered good relationships. And I think it has, both with fellow students and with administrators. I think that Auburn SGA does a really good job of embodying what Auburn is. And so it's not super political, but it's a really cool way to form unique relationships centered around the goal of bettering Auburn, which I think is really cool. Yeah,
and you talked about the relationships with students, which honestly feels like a big part of what Auburn is, and that's why a lot of people come here. So
exactly.
I like that that's what you centered it around. What do you feel like specifically, maybe event-wise or an initiative, your biggest achievement was for the year?
So one that I think is really, really neat that will take years to kind of show itself, and I just mentioned, is the Central Auburn app. And so a lot of students are familiar with, and you are as Camp War Eagle counselor, you come in and you have 18 different apps thrown at you. Each department has its own app. It accomplishes its own purpose. And a big goal for us this year as a whole was Auburn does a lot of really good things, but not a lot of people know what those good things are. And a lot of times people don't even know the resources that they're given. And so we're going to be rolling out this app this semester, and then it will continue to have rollouts every year for a few years where they bring in more and more departments. So the goal is 3 to 4 years from now, there'll be one app that you download when you arrive at Auburn, and you have that app as an alum, you have it as a prospective student, you have it as a current student, you have it as a faculty member, and your end user experience is different. So for us, it'll show our grades, it'll show essentially a lot of the things that you see on AU Access, but as an alum, it might show your NIL account, or different things that you're really passionate about, Tigers Unlimited, your Auburn Alumni Network, et cetera. And so that's one thing that I think is really going to make a huge impact. But we talk about all the time is planting seeds for trees that you never enjoy the shade. And as a senior in this role, that's just the whole year. very rare that like the Albee figure that's coming up, that's 3 administrations that's worked on it, and I'm the lucky one that gets to see it happen. And so that's a big thing for us, is passing on things like the app that can go to the next administration and continue to grow upon it. So.
Yeah, Ashton and I actually just talked about that same
Really?
thing yesterday of like,
Yeah.
the planting the seeds of a tree.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of what SGA is,
Yeah.
and not enough people recognize that. It's kind of a
No.
selfless thing.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know, I've loved it. Part of you always wishes like, okay, I wish that I could see this project happen, but I think it would honestly be cooler to come back in 5 years as an alum and be like,
Yeah.
I had a piece in that.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
So what advice would you give to the next president?
That's really good. I think that a big piece of advice I would give him is, I think that I came in extremely goal-oriented, and it has allowed us to accomplish a lot of things. But I think, as I'm sitting here today, I think the biggest thing that you can really do is empower the people around you to do a lot. That you don't have to be at every meeting and you don't have to know everything, but to really empower the people around you to be able to accomplish the goals that y'all have set forth as a team, and to be there as their support system is, I think, the most important thing. It kind of goes back to those relationships. If relationships are first, the goals just happen. And that's something I didn't really recognize to begin with, is I was like, I'm going to do the goals. In the back end of us working on the goals, we're going to have to establish relationships. But really, it's the other way around. If you establish a relationship, the goal just kind of happens because everybody's on the same page and they love working together.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So one last thing, do you have a last message for the student body?
That's really good. I like to tell people all the time that I think that Auburn's in a really special place. It's at a really unique turning point in a lot of different ways. It's gotten really competitive to get into. Its student experience is only heightened. Our athletic programs are getting better and better. And Auburn's becoming one of the premier institutions, not just in the Southeast anymore, but in the nation to go to. And its degree means a lot more. And so I felt overwhelmingly blessed to get to participate in it. And really blessed to, I don't know, I felt like I came into Auburn and had not a low expectation. I felt like I had a reasonable expectation of college. You're going to have fun. You're going to get a degree. You're going to be exposed to different things. But it's just blown my expectations out of the water, which has been, and I think every Auburn student can say that. And that really means a lot.
Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So thank you for watching Eagle Eye TV's coverage of the SGA election. This has been JD Jones, your outgoing president. Back to the desk.